All right, let's do this. Happy Wednesday. It's the Kinner and Kev Show. Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We are off and rolling. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome. Happy Wednesday.
What up, though?
Why are you in a good mood?
Man, I just got some great news, and you also on this text thread, man. We got some great news about a friend of ours.
Well,
man.
I better respond.
Yeah.
Communication is key.
You'll definitely respond to this one. Yeah.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Did they just announce that?
No, so we're just having a personal conversation on the air. Basically, the wife and I were talking last night, and then she just randomly asked me, hey, do you know if so-and-so is having a boy or girl yet? I was like, I have no idea. It's like, well, we got to get them a gift. I was like, oh, y'all just going to get a gift card from Target. It was like, no, you better get them a real gift and a gift card. I was like, okay, I guess I need to find out if they're having a boy or girl. So hit up said friend. They're having a little boy.
Congratulations, the
part 3.
You think he'll work in radio?
No, I'm sure that
Teach
kid will
him-
be
teach him early, Hoop.
a lot smarter than his dad was.
Teach him early, Hoop. His dad's really smart, too.
Yes.
But nonetheless, happy Wednesday. A lot to get into here today. It's going to sound like, well, these topics are fairly similar. More so just updating, just jumping in on some updates of the topics that really dominated the week. Show cause. Show cause. What is
Show
it?
cause.
Show cause.
Yeah.
4-year show cause for everyone's favorite lunatic. But I wanted to be clear, so Jim Harbaugh gets a 4-year show cause as the NCAA finally hands down one ruling that has nothing to do with the ruling that we've been spending so much time on, or not ruling, but the situation, the cheating scandal. So Harbaugh no longer, and look, what does this mean? So Harbaugh getting that the 4-year show cause, okay?
Yep.
He's the head coach of the LA Chargers. He has won a national championship in college, and he will go down as a legendary coaching figure with the Michigan Wolverines, no doubt about it. This doesn't really mean, I see some of the naysayers out there who, Michigan fans being those naysayers out there saying, well, what does it matter? He's not going to go back, and that's the point. That's why it is what all this does is just continue to show. Now, you could water it down and say it's because he provided meals for players before you were allowed to provide meals or whatever it was that he violated. You could water it down to that. Let me put it this way. Speed limit's 35. I get pulled over for going 45. The officer's willing to give me a little bit of a break, but I mouthed off to the officer, so now you're getting the ticket.
Right.
Wow, officer, really? I was just going 10 over. It's my first speeding ticket. What are we doing here? Harbaugh is getting this penalty put on him because of the lying and not basically abiding with the investigation.
Right.
That's what this comes down to. So don't try to simplify it to, oh man, it was something silly. They just had it out for him. And whose fault is that? We were talking a little bit ago. Maybe I put myself in position to have a certain individual after me, but I've created that mess, so I can't fully get mad. But that's Harbaugh. You created this mess by not working with them. I don't care. And I've always said before, I don't care how silly the rule is. You still got to follow it. As dumb as that sounds, as dumb as it is. I can't just, officer, I know the speed limit was 35, but I think that's a dumb speed limit. So I'm going to go my speed limit, and then I'm going to get mad at you for holding me accountable. That's what Michigan's doing here. That's why I don't sympathize with them. They could try to water it down and make it seem like, oh my gosh, they're overreacting to Cheeseburger Gate and this, that, and the other. They're not overreacting. They are reacting in the way that you would expect someone to react when you don't cooperate with an investigation. That's why this is happening. Does it impact anything? Does it matter? Harbaugh will never coach in college again. So, and theoretically, no, it'll never have an impact whatsoever. But what it does is give guys like us that, see, he is being held accountable. There is something coming out of this, but this isn't even the cheating scandal. This is just the chapter 1, chapter 2. Still, they're working their way through chapter 2.
Absolutely. So when this news broke earlier today, my first thought was like, yeah, this is Shaw wants to talk about a nothing burger. This is a nothing burger because he's not going to be coaching in college football. He's off to the pros. He's making his millions in the pros. He's going to be a good head coach in the pros, just like he was with the 49ers the first time. So, this is the least of his worries. If he flames out or wins 10 Super Bowls with the Chargers, it doesn't affect what he was able to accomplish at the University of Michigan his last 3 years with the help of Connor Stallions. So, for me, it's almost like being suspended from school after you graduated. That's like basically Wright State saying, hey, Kev, you can never come back on campus. Well, I got what I needed out of you. I got an education and a degree. Y'all got a whole bunch of money out of me. And okay, fine. I guess I can never step foot on campus again. Okay, fine. And I just go on with my life. So this is not going to affect Harbaugh in the least bit. Now, it's going to affect his reputation. And it also depends on how much he cares about his reputation. How much does he want people to like him? We don't know how much he wants people to like him because he's such a unique individual. He maybe doesn't truly be one of those people that doesn't care about who likes or doesn't like him. Those people are far and few between. But I liken it to the Urban Meyer situation, where Urban Meyer wants to be liked. Urban Meyer did a documentary about the Swamp Kings, but in order for him to be a part of the documentary, there were certain things that were kind of basically off limits because he wants people to like him. So that's why the Swamp Kings documentary, the people that were like super into college football was like, well, that was a waste of 3 hours. Like that wasn't the Last Dance. That wasn't stuff we didn't know. This is all stuff we knew before. You spent 30 seconds on Aaron Hernandez. You spent 10 seconds on this. Like, whatever. Does Harbaugh care? Will he care in the future? You know, Harbaugh is going to be 61 years old in December. I mean, not to sound like an old man, but like older and older you get, you do start to think about, quote unquote, your legacy and like how you're viewed and like, what are people going to say about you when you're not here anymore? So maybe he'll have a change of heart when he gets a little bit older. But the here and now, he did what he was supposed to do at Michigan. He brought them back to prominence. They won a national championship. He cashed that out into an opportunity to return to the NFL. So be it.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is let's say this Connor Stallions thing never happens. I don't think Kevin and I are digging our heels into this as much as what Michigan fans would like to think that we would. We'd still kind of poke fun at it.
Yeah.
Like he, you know, that's why he went to the NFL. He's running away from it. But if this was the brunt of it, whatever. We'd talk about it lightly and then move on. Harbaugh brought a championship to Michigan. Great. But this isn't the ruling that we were waiting on.
Right.
This is, and like, I think this is this pretty aggressive? 4-year show cause, but 4-year show cause plus this is, if he does come back to coaching, he's suspended for that first full season.
No, it's not. It's not. It's nothing because he's not. That's the only thing. It's like the NCAA can talk big and bad knowing he's not coming back.
Yep.
Like, man, he's already gone and he's not coming back. Babe, but if you do come back, you're suspended for an entire year, buddy. Well, guess what? I can avoid that suspension by never coming back.
Just don't show your face around here again. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah, because he's not banned from the University of Michigan. The NCAA can't tell him he can't go back and be honored by the University of Michigan.
Well, and again, I should know this. How did that work with Terrell Pryor? How was Terrell Pryor banned from the shoe? Oh, man. Do you remember what?
I don't remember.
Because I agree with you, but I do believe there's something. I'm not advocating for that, by the way. Like, I'm not going to go overboard and say he should. I
think Ohio State accepted
as part of the
like a part of the, I don't want to say plea deal, but like the sanctions or whatever.
Because the Browns played a preseason game there years ago when Terrell Pryor was a wide receiver for the Browns, and they had to get a waiver, if you will, or some kind of permission for him to play at the shoe. So, anyways, I thought that was interesting. As far as that's concerned. Troy, I hope you're doing well. Troy says he's a Michigan fan. Now, Troy and I, like right now, I say, Troy, I hope you're doing well. But we usually hate each other during the football season, you know. But
he's also a Bengals fan?
I think he's whatever I agree with, he disagrees with. He's that kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
But he's a supporter of the show, so I appreciate him. For now, and then I'll be unappreciative of later. You know, I'm a hypocrite. It's how it goes. But he says, I totally agree with Shaw yesterday. He totally disagrees with Shaw yesterday. I claim Michigan's title, but it does have a stain. Will pass in time. I also care what everyone is saying about Michigan, good or bad, go blue.
There it is.
A rational Michigan fan.
Yeah.
You know that M&M Christmas commercial? They do exist.
They do exist.
They do exist. Rational Michigan fans. The rational observer. Roger says 21 days until the Stallions doc. Are you guys going to review it?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No one cares, though, about that.
You know, you brought up Terrell Pryor, and I'm going to derail this a little bit. Can you name one?
Shaw says whatever, by the way.
All 9 teams that Terrell Pryor played for in the NFL?
He played for 9 teams in the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm sure you can name at least 3.
God, can I, though? I know the Browns. That's an easy one. The Bills.
Yes.
What team did he have the 1,000-yard receiving yard?
Browns.
The Browns. So the Bills, the Browns. Help me out with the rest. Did the Bengals ever take a bite at that?
No. So he started with the Raiders, where he played quarterback. Seahawks played quarterback. Chiefs played quarterback. I lied. Did play for the Bengals. Bengals, Browns, wide receiver. Commanders/Redskins, wide receiver. Jets, Bills, Jags. What a career. Can you think of another Ohio State player that was disliked more than him?
Was he? It's not that I don't remember that time. I know I do. I just remember more of the Urban era at Ohio State. And I remember Terrell Pryor. I feel like there's a part of my brain that I blocked out that whole mess. And I'm not joking. When people ask me about it, maybe that's what Sean, these guys need to do. Maybe that's what I'm saying. Nobody cares about it. But, was he that disliked? Did people hate him around the NFL?
Man.
Was he very cocky and arrogant? Why? I'm being honest. I know I'm supposed to pretend that I'm supposed to remember these things, and I should. Shame on me. I knew. I mean, he didn't pan out, but 9 teams. I mean, he was able to spread that career out a little bit. It's not as if he was just bum everywhere he went. That 1,000-yard receiving season. That was huge. We thought that's what was going to kind of reinvent him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But I think that it speaks to his true athleticism. I mean, he came into the NFL as a quarterback. He's never played any other position besides quarterback in high school and in college and in the NFL. And then to make that transition while starting games as a quarterback in the NFL just is crazy athleticism. But speaking on his time at Ohio State, I can't think, maybe, obviously, Maurice Clarett. Those two were probably the most loved/hated players I can ever think of to play for the Buckeyes. Like, yeah, there were other players, like, I won't even say names, but like other players out there for the Buckeyes that people just like, why are they on the team? They stink, da 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 da. But like, there was never a, hey man, you are either a Terrell Pryor guy or you're not. Like, no matter what he did, it just seemed like the people that didn't like Terrell Pryor hated him. I remember very vividly when he brought the flat top back.
Yes,
he brought the flat top back. And I remember some people that worked in this building, they no longer work here anymore, were so disgusted with his haircut. And that was before, the Rational Observer days. And like people like, what is this all about? He's dying for attention. Is just like this isn't how a quarterback dresses. This is what a quarterback drives. Like, he's in college. He has a Mazda 6. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, TP, man, he was a different dude, but goodness gracious, he was supreme athlete. That loss to Wisconsin, man, we would have won the national championship that year. It would have got overturned, but we'd have won the Natty that year.
Zeke became a little dislikable post Ohio State. I mean, I thought some of those Buckeyes from that 15 season, because there was so much expectations for them, like Zeke became a little unlikable for a bit, but not to that level.
Yeah.
But I think it's because there were frustrated Buckeye fans from them underperforming and not living up to expectations in 2015 as the defending champions. Like, that team was loaded.
That post-game interview after the Michigan State game.
Yep. Which, by the way, I'm a big fan of that post-game interview now. What? What'd I say? Let's see. What Dennis says. What did Dennis say? Dennis is saying to disappear. There it is. Browns just released video of their idea for their new dome stadium. A lot of controversy over in Cleveland. Look, I don't live in Cleveland, so it's like the big debate was for them in Cleveland, it's about relocating. Like, it's the Cleveland Browns. It's downtown Cleveland right now. You want to keep it there. They're moving it to a suburb of Cleveland, so it's not the same vibe. Like, go to the Bengals, Paycor, downtown Cincinnati. It would be like, move Paycor to Hamilton and say you're going to go watch the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, It's kind of weird. It's a little much further away. You are from Cleveland, right? So you kind of know a little bit more where it's going to be, but I don't really care where they're locating it. That doesn't impact me. If I go to a Cleveland Browns home game, I'm going to go no matter where it's at. I don't live there. It doesn't bother me. It would bother me if, the Paycor was moved or whatever. But to me, it's the inside outside thing. Like, I think right now, with as much money as is invested into these stadiums, if they end up pulling the trigger on this, you want it to be, yes, football, but an events type place as well. Like, WWE is a very good example. I mean, like Indianapolis right now, they're going to get SummerSlam. They're going to get all the major PLEs, right? Like, it's a bidding thing too. So you get all your football events, you get your basketball events, you're getting like these stadiums are becoming major moneymakers.
Yeah.
And to strictly make it a football stadium only, I think is just not plausible anymore moving forward. I think in the next 15 years, I think every new stadium that is built, I'll be surprised if there will be any brand new outside stadiums built in the next 15 years. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the new wave. Now, as far as Cleveland is concerned, the Cleveland Browns and their potential new stadium, I am a outdoor stadium person. I would prefer that. But if I had to give one or the other, be it in Brook Park or downtown Cleveland.
How far is Brook Park from downtown?
Probably like 30 minutes.
So
it's not far. It's not far.
That's why I brought up Hamilton. It'd be like Paycor moving to Hamilton, which that's about 40.
But yes, it's not far. But no, if regardless of the stadium, dome or outside or whatever, it needs to be downtown. And I know the Brook Park thing, I've been hearing a lot about it. They're trying to make like, this like an entertainment center. Like they're going to put like condos out there and that's going to be like the centerpiece. They're going to put like a shopping district and stuff like that. That's cool and everything. But how about you put that actually downtown Cleveland? Like I do not want that to happen because my hometown, though I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan, you're continually taking things away from the city. I'm old enough to remember when the Cavs played in Richfield. My pops used to take me and my brother to games in Richfield, and we would always wonder, like, man, it's sure taking us a long time to get home because it was 45 minutes away after a basketball game on a Tuesday night. And mom is like, the boys got to get up and go to school. And you're getting them home at 11 o'clock at night. Like, I'm not a fan of that, man. So if I had to choose one or the other, it would be downtown. Hey, you want to have a dome? Fine. But it's got to be downtown Cleveland.
Yeah, and it sounds like, I mean, again, this is just a rendering of what it would look like. It looks freaking badass.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But this is why I'll lean towards your opinion more than mine because you're from that area and it impacts you differently. You have family that still lives there. Like I said, I live in Dayton. If I'm going to go to Browns, I'm not going to know. I'm going to put it in my GPS, but I'm going downtown Cleveland or wherever this one's going to be. I'm not going to notice the difference other than walking into this badass dome whenever I get there.
Right.
It doesn't impact me personally. As far as that's concerned, that's the difference. But the money that, yeah, you're right. I mean, the money, it would not kill downtown, but I mean, during the football season, I mean, that's millions and millions of dollars downtown that'll take away.
Right. All the restaurants and everything like that. And this is one of those things that, people that actually live in the city and the actual city limits of Cleveland, like it's this term called Northeast Ohio. You know what I'm saying? So like, Garfield Heights and Parma and technically like Youngstown and Warren, that's like Northeast Ohio. Like, yeah. But the simple fact is Brook Park is not Cleveland. It's just not. So you're going to be asking people that are actually from Cleveland to drive all the way out there, spend their money out there on food and parking and things like that. And all that money's supposed to be recycled back into the home city of the team. Well, that money's not going to go to the actual city. And people that aren't familiar, Cleveland's not a booming town like that, but you're going to take that out to the suburbs so the suburbs can continue to grow and make more money. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Well, I do know from a football perspective, I know football weather is outside when it's cold and all this, that, and the other, but the benefits that it does have for a team to play indoors, I think is key. And that will give Cleveland and all indoor teams an advantage. By the way, earlier when I said I didn't predict that in 15 years, every team will have an indoor stadium, I'm saying any new stadium that goes out, I'll be surprised. I don't know if we'll ever see another new out. I mean, the Bears, I guess I didn't pay attention. What was their rendering?
They were talking about doing an indoor one as well. Because I mean, I get it. I totally understand where you're coming from and where they're coming from. Like, hey man, why are we only using this from September until December? Like, hey, there's other months in the year where we can have, Britney Spears. I said Britney Spears. We can have Beyonce.
Just to get out of that room first.
We can have a Beyonce concert. We can have whoever come perform whenever they want because we're inside. So I get it. And if that's the give that I would have to give into, that like it's gonna have to be a dome, fine, that's cool. And I mean, you're right. Like they could bring a Super Bowl there and stuff like that, and that's going to generate more revenue. But I would prefer that revenue being actually in Cleveland.
Be the closest the Browns come to a Super Bowl is hosting one. Sorry, I'm just mocking everyone in their cars right now. There you go.
It's basically out by the airport. And anybody's ever been to Hopkins Airport, it's a disaster over there all the time.
You see Nelly got arrested?
I saw that.
For ecstasy possession and no insurance.
No
insurance?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, I mean, he's a rapper, an entertainer. Of course, he's got drugs, but no insurance is crazy.
Like, no insurance? Like,
that's crazy. That's insane, dude. Like, come on, dude. Of course, you got ecstasy. You're a rapper.
Michigan fans were like, cops have it out for him, man. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. So the Browns put out a rendering of their new proposed stadium that will be taken out of downtown. It'll be an indoor stadium. It'll be taken out of downtown and moved about, what'd you say, 30 minutes away?
Probably like 20, 25 minutes away, downtown Cleveland to the airport. That's where Brook Park is. So probably like 20, 25 minutes.
So Brad, what up, Brad? Messages into the show. A lot of these fields are far away from the city. Downtown Miami is 40 minutes from Hard Rock. It's and I think the complaint about it is if it wasn't already downtown, like you're taking it out of Cleveland. If it was already out of, if the talk was to move the team downtown, there'd be a lot of support for that probably. But there's a lot of support not to do it. But there's clearly not enough support from the taxpayers in town, which, and again, it shouldn't be. Like you got especially the Haslams. As a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you should just expect that you're going to probably have to eat it. That you're going to have to be responsible with your tax dollars to help pay for that, right? Paycor or any stadium with the Bengals, right? You don't have that rich owner that's going to. But the Haslams, that's all Browns fans. That's all I do. That's all we do is brag about how cash rich our owner is. But he's out there shaking the digital tin can, wanting people to help pay for it. Nonetheless, but either way, yeah, like it's not that unheard of. That's why I love the fact that, not a Bengals fan, but I love that the Bengals and the Reds stadiums are side by side. I think that's cool. Cleveland's the same way, with the Browns, with the Guardians, and then of course, obviously the Cavs where they play. I do like when all the pro venues are, basically kind of hugging each other a bit, but that's not how it's going to be moving forward. Yeah,
it doesn't seem that way. I mean, I know Mayor Bibbs is still trying to get approval, I forget for how many $1 million to basically do a renovation on Cleveland Browns Stadium to, lock them in for another like decade or two. But it doesn't appear like that's what the franchise wants to do. Like the franchise wants to move further out. And you know who owns a lot of that land out there? The Haslams. So, like, I mean, it's no mystery, like what's going on here. And I don't necessarily knock them for it. I mean, they're business people. So, all right, we're going to have tenants. We're going to have condos. So it's just going to be their home little own Browns world, basically, which is, I mean, it's going to, if this happens, it's going to be cool. But I'm just thinking about like the people that have been fans for decades, been fans their entire life. I mean, that stadium or the Browns have played in downtown Cleveland for decades, like not just 1 decade, 2 decades, like people that have basically like 60 years they've been downtown Cleveland. So it's just a change that I'm not sure that I am willing to see, or for that matter, people that are actually fans of the team.
Hard Knocks. We've had Ray Clay on the show before.
Yep.
Ray Clay, the legendary PA voice for the Chicago Bulls during the Michael Jordan era. How about announcing Caleb Williams? That was pretty cool. He's actually going to be coming on off the bench with us here soon.
Nice.
He's been on with us before, and a great storyteller. I mean, that legendary voice. I've told you the calling games for Wright State, being on the road one time when UIC was in the league, calling the game. Also, I hear the PA announcer, and I'm like, why does that guy sound so familiar? He still does to this day. He's the PA for the UIC Flames.
Nice,
but that's wild. You PA for the biggest dynasty in the history of sports in the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, and he still loves working in town. He does some stuff with the Chicago Sky from time to time. So it's all about Chicago for him. But, that's pretty cool seeing him in there with the Caleb Williams. Did you watch Hard Knocks?
I did not watch Hard Knocks. I saw the clip on Twitter, and you know that music. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it gives everybody the feels, man. I think it's cool. I know there are like a small backlash, like you can't give him the Chicago Bulls music. That's Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen's music. Like, well, you're creating hype. You're trying to get butts in the seats. They're trying to, create that buzz around Caleb Williams. And forget buzz, they're creating a good team around him. The defense is good. They're loading him up with weapons. The expectations for the Chicago Bears are sky high. Expectations for them is at least double-digit wins.
Man, how do you do that with Caleb Williams? I mean, we've seen teams just open up the city for rookies coming in, but it's usually a reaction to a rookie looking like the star. Cleveland didn't go bonanzas for Baker initially. I mean, they were excited for Baker, but like with Baker, all of a sudden when they come from behind to beat the Jets after halftime, and then he goes on. I mean, the Browns offense just totally looked explosive. And then it's like, holy crap, there's something to work with here. Then the city went crazy. But that was after LeBron left for the second time. So they were just clamoring for anyone to kind of hold on to. The Guardians had just lost the Indians at the time had just lost the World Series around that time.
Thanks, Kenny.
A few years before. So they were still reeling from that. But the Bengals, it took a few games, but it was like, oh, Joe. I mean, it didn't take a few games. They went into the deep end with Joe Burrow right off the bat, but there was some local ties, not Cincinnati ties, but Ohio ties, right? I don't mind the Bears doing this. I'm not a Caleb Williams guy. I don't think he's going to develop into the star that everyone's thinking just because, I mean, if he does, good for him. That means he lived up to the hype. But like a lot of the best quarterbacks in the league didn't live up to the hype coming in. Right. You just hoped. This guy's been anointed a star. I don't know the last quarterback. What's the last quarterback that was anointed a star before entering the league and actually was a star?
Oh, man.
Because Patrick Mahomes wasn't anointed as a star. I mean, he was a good prospect. I mean, Joe Burrow.
I guess Joe Burrow, I would think.
But did he get the Caleb Williams treatment? And Joe B's like elite, no doubt about
Cincinnati, he did.
Yeah, but like across the league is putting Caleb Williams as an MVP candidate. But I think that's because the work the Bears have done building up the roster around him.
Yeah.
Like, I think that has something to do with it too. If Joe Burrow comes in and there's a seasoned Jamar Chase and T. Higgins waiting for him to come in, maybe he's getting that he's getting that Caleb Williams push. What's realistic? I mean, the Bears, Caleb Williams, is he an MVP candidate this year? if they live up to what they're supposed to be, I don't think you could live up to what they're supposed to be unless he's the main catalyst of it. So I don't think it's that crazy to say, 6 months from now, us talking about him being an MVP candidate.
Yes. I'll say this, yes, because I think we all believe that the Detroit Lions are going to be damn good this year. I think we all believe that the Green Bay Packers are going to be very good this year. So if he's beating the Lions and the Packers, that means they're winning the NFC North. That means they're winning 12, 13 games. So, yeah, if the Chicago Bears win 12, 13 games, absolutely, he's in the MVP talk. I mean, shoot, CJ Stroud was in the MVP talk, and they won 11 games.
Man, a lot of people have them taking a step back, the Texans. Are you having them taking a step back this year?
I do not. I have them the same. I am not as super high on the addition of Stephon Diggs as other people are. But guess what? Tank Dell's coming back from the injury. He's going to be there. And CJ Stroud is obviously still going to be there. So I have them the same. I think they're going to battle it out again with the Jacksonville Jaguars. CJ
Stroud had the best rookie season ever. Not results. I mean, you had you've been with the Super Bowl or something, but like he looked like a seasoned vet coming in. And the reason I'm not going above and beyond with the Texans because they got Stephon Diggs. I'm going above and beyond with the Texans because they got Stephon Diggs when they didn't need Stephon Diggs. Like, he makes them so much more dangerous, and they didn't need him. Okay. The Texans, to me, the Joe Mixon edition is a better edition than Stephon Diggs. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds wild. But you balance that run game. I think Joe Mixon has some left in the tank. I don't think the Bengals needed to extend him. I thought that was the right time to split.
Right.
I have no problem with the Bengals moving on from Mixon. But I have no problem with the Texans, who have the cap space and room to pay a running back. He was the perfect running back to bring in, and he's explosive in both the run and the pass game. I think he's going to take that offense to another level. My point is Stephon Diggs could not come back at all, and the Texans' offense is still one of the best. From top to bottom, wide receiver 1, 2, 3. You have Schultz at tight end. The run game.
Forgetting about him.
The run game. And you have a defense that was mid last year. They were very good against the run. They were top 5 against the run. They were one of the worst passing defenses, but they added to their secondary. And they go on the defensive line, and they go and they add to that they add Daniel Hunter there, one of the best pass rushers in football. So they address that. I think that the additions of Hunter on the defensive line, bulking up in the secondary a little bit, adding a little bit more depth there. They weren't the worst defense in the NFL last year, but very, very good run game. And the fact that Stephon Diggs, I think this is actually the best offense in the AFC. I'll take this.
Wow.
I'm taking the Chiefs over the Texans, but I'm taking the offense. I know that sounds very strange, but I'm very high on the Houston Texans. I think that they are the most dangerous team. What's their weakness? Looking at their offense, Kev, what's their weakness right now? They got a good offensive line. They got a top 10 run game. They were top 10 in the run game last year before Mixon. You have 3-headed monster at wide receiver.
You got Cade Stover.
Tight end. Yeah, and that's their second tight end. And then an MVP candidate at quarterback. I don't know what their weakness is as far as the Texans are concerned.
I'm telling you this. You're selling me. You should work for the Houston Texans. You selling me on it. My question for you is who's the 1, who's the 2, who's the 3? Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Who's the number 1? Who's the number 2? Who's the number 3?
I think going in, Stephon Diggs is your 1. I think Nico's number 2, or Nico's technically. I mean, I don't know. That's a good thing. This reminds me of the Bengals offense in 21. The Bengals offense was an elite tight end away from being one of the best offenses ever. I mean, that's how dominant that offense was. Maybe that's a little over the top. You know me, over the top at the Bengals. But Schultz is what puts the Texans over the top for me. He's what complements those 3 great wide receivers. So, like I said, I would be high on the Texans no matter what, but because they added Stephon Diggs, I thought that was a stupid good get. Because they look at CJ and said, hey, we got to take advantage of his window now. Because look how messy things are getting for teams that pay their quarterback. Doesn't mean it's impossible to win, but are the Bengals front office, are they having as much fun now? I know they're a Super Bowl contender. You think that front office is having as much fun now as they were 2 years ago? No. The back-to-back off seasons where it's just been hell. I think all GMs, they must hate coming to work every day. Every day it's like, crap, we got to fight Jamar Chase today. Damn, finally we got that T. Higgins thing put behind us. Oh no, now we got Hendrickson. Crap. Which, by the way, good news for him. He did show up to camp. Not show up to camp. He's healthy. He's back out on camp today. Good for him. Now it's Jamar Chase, and it's like, my gosh. And then by the time you get that done, they did get Logan Wilson taken care of already. But then it's like, all right, now what do we do about this offensive line? Like, it's a never-ending crap storm. The Texans are in the fun portion. They're in the fun part. They're not negotiating anything. Everything is just laid out for them. This is the fun time, and the Texans are taking advantage of it. So,
all right, I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay.
The last time we had a rookie quarterback, the ball out of control, and the organization said, "Hey, I'm gonna go get you a disgruntled wide receiver," was OBJ getting traded from the Giants to go to the Cleveland Browns to pair up with Baker Mayfield. How'd that work out?
Didn't work out, but the depth behind OBJ, and I'm not a hypocrite, or maybe I am, but I'm admitting I'm not sure how to word this. I was super, super high. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. When they got OBJ, I thought that was the coolest thing. But the OBJ that was with the Giants is who I thought that the Browns were getting.
It was. Y'all just didn't see it. I was telling y'all, like, that's not the same OBJ with the one-handed catch. OBJ hadn't been the same since that playoff game where he turned into Stonehands Jenkins. But continue.
Do it. There we go. Yeah. Every time someone says OBJ, it's all I think of is that dumb little hand clap.
That's right? How he uses catches the ball, man.
And then the things between Cap. Well, okay. Maybe.
And then he turned back into himself. He showed up with the Rams and like, hey, I can catch again.
Well, and I said too, when you're the number 3 option and no one's throwing double teams your way, double coverage your way, and he's very good, still good. Right, that's why the Dolphins have him as their number 3. I think he'll do well if he can get out there. Has he been participating?
No, he's not.
So there you go. The more things change, the more they say the same. But no, the difference with that is the Browns didn't have the depth. Although Jarvis was really good, Jarvis was very underrated, but still didn't have 1,000-yard seasons like what we're seeing with Amari Cooper. I just think the Texans, if Stephon Diggs blows up and he doesn't play one game this whole season, the Texans are still a top 5 offensive team, in my opinion, as far as that goes. The Browns were not. They brought him in to get them to that point. Plus, they gave up Zeitler.
Yeah,
they gave up. And then that was their biggest weakness at offensive line until they finally rebulked up and fixed that. Baker got sacked a lot that year. That year with OBJ that first year. But Roger says, what about the disgruntled Randy Moss to the Patriots? That worked out.
Oh, that for sure worked out.
Yeah,
probably the second best wide receiver season of all time.
Roger also says their weakness is that they are the Texans.
The weakness is their ownership.
Yeah. But all these things were like, to me, I keep telling all the guys with Chatterbox, like the Texans are the 2021 Bengals. They're the 2021 Bengals, except slightly different because the 2021 Bengals came out of the scene and surprised people. This Texans seems a little different. I think everyone's expecting them. Maybe last year was the 2021 Bengals, but the 2021 Bengals went to a Super Bowl. So nonetheless. All right. It's the Kinner and Kev show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. You see the Reds are going to be playing a game next season against the Braves, and we'll talk about that. There's the Field of Dreams game, which is pretty cool. But they're also going to be doing something different next year, where the Reds and Braves go on to play at Speedway. So that's going to be freaking wild. Like, that place is massive.
Indianapolis?
Yeah, at Bristol. right?
Oh, okay.
Is it Bristol Speedway that they're playing? I should know this. Hold on. I want to get to it. So give me 1 second. But it was huge when that broke yesterday. One of the question is I just don't understand like the purpose of it. Like, what are we doing? So the Reds, Bristol. The Reds are going to be playing the Braves at Bristol Motor Speedway in 25, according to the Athletic. And this is what Bristol Motor Speedway looks like in 2016 when they hosted Tennessee against Virginia. I forgot about that game.
Yeah.
That was massive. But we were talking about it on Chatterbox earlier today. They said, like, you could actually fit an entire stadium in this. Like, we keep thinking how the dimension's going to work. You could fit an entire stadium in there. Indoor, outdoor, it don't matter. All right, we'll be right back. Kenner and Cat, 1410 Wing AM. All right, and we are back. Justin Kenner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call to jump in on the conversation. We'll get to your calls coming up here in just a moment. But how about Jim Harbaugh, as we talked about a little bit ago, to open up the show?
Oh, Jimbo, no Fisher.
I mean, he never does anything wrong, right? No, but so ESPN announced it earlier that the NCAA announced a 4-year show cause order for former Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh on Wednesday for impermissible contact with recruits and players while access was restricted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, that was the Burger Gate, Cheeseburger Gate, or whatever it was.
Something like that.
And I agree. Look, I think it's absolutely insanely ridiculous, right? What the NCAA goes after. The NCAA went after this. This has turned into what it has because he didn't cooperate and because he lied. So while people try to just say, oh, it was a stupid cheeseburger, man, I agree with you. And as a head coach, it's your responsibility to not let a stupid cheeseburger man turn into this. This turned into this because you didn't cooperate, because you lied. It's as simple as that. Like, you know what I mean, Kev? Like, I agree. The NCAA, I'm not defending the NCAA by any means, but I'm also not going to sit here and act like that had Harbaugh handled this like a leader, that this wouldn't have got to this point. I think that, hey, you know what I mean? Like the self-sanctions, you could do all that stuff to try to get, whatever. But either way, I just don't think that they handled this well at all.
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh didn't come to play ball. You know what I'm saying? And that's all the NCAA really wants you to do when they find that you broke the law, is to play ball with them. Like, all right, we're going to do self-sanctions. Like, I remember when the whole Jim Tressel situation happened, and it was the year Fickle coached.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody in the fan base wanted to be like, oh, halfway through the season, man, we should just go ahead and do a bowl ban. Like, we're not good this year, so what's the point? We're not going to go to a good bowl. Like, we just do a self-imposed bowl ban. And then the following season, obviously, Urban Meyer took over. We went undefeated. We had the bowl ban.
Fickle tried to implement a bowl ban.
We had a bowl ban. We were undefeated that season, and they would have played Notre Dame in the BCS championship game. And obviously, we're in Buckeye Nation. We believe we would have won, and that was a championship that escaped us. Obviously, that's how we believe it would have went. We would have smoked them and everything like that. Ultimately, Alabama smoked Notre Dame in that national championship game, and that's one that, quote unquote, got away. But we played ball. You know what I'm saying? We played ball, and guess what? It was 1 year and we're back on business. We're back on where we belong. And Jim Harbaugh refused to do that. And
on top of that, lied.
Yeah.
Just like I thought Tatgate was silly, but when you find out that Jim Tressel, who's actually one of the most stand-up dudes you'll ever meet,
the cover-up,
he lied ultimately. And we all know what happened then. He lost his job because of it. So as far as that's concerned, here's what I'm curious about. Jim Harbaugh's in the NFL. Nothing could be done, right? I'm not really advocating that Jim Harbaugh be punished in the NFL for the sanctions and everything else that have been handed down because of him at Michigan. But if we are, I'm glad you brought up that Jim Tressel season, Kevin. I'm glad you brought it up, because I do find it very interesting that back in 2011, when Jim Tressel got hired on by the Indianapolis Colts to be, what was he, their film? What was his? He was a replay consultant,
analyst or something like that.
I mean, that's about as far off the food chain as whatever the hell title they made up for, Mr. Manifesto, Connor Stallions. But keep in mind, he was just a replay consultant, and he covered up Tattoo Gate the way that Harbaugh tried to cover up Cheeseburger Gate. And now I find this article very interesting. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, this is an article back from 2011. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said Tuesday that he would have suspended Jim Tressel if the Indianapolis Colts didn't make him sit out games to start the 2011 season. People thought it was weird that when the Colts announced the hiring of Jim Tressel that they said, but he will not be working for us for the first 6 weeks of the season. Everyone's like, well, why? It's because the league had basically let the Colts know, we're going to punish him if you don't.
Right.
So he didn't. The Colts announced Monday that they, again, this is from the article. The Colts announced on the Monday before the season that they would not use the former Ohio State coach as a replay consultant until the 7th game of the season. Tressel was forced out at Ohio State after an investigation into improper benefits received by his players, including quarterback Terrell Pryor. And interestingly enough, we just talked about him a little bit ago. So, Kev, Roger Goodell still in power here. This is, I mean, both are lame things that happen. I thought Cheeseburger Gate was lame. I thought Tressel's Tattoo Gate was lame. But they both ultimately faced major punishment because they both lied.
Right.
So if Roger Goodell comes out and says that he was going to suspend Tressel if the Colts didn't hold him out, are the Chargers going to be forced to do the same thing? Do you think that and to be fair to Michigan fans here on this, even though he's not your coach anymore, I thought that was so stupid and silly when they did that and implemented that with Tressel back with the Colts that year. But at the same time, to be consistent, this is the exact same thing. Why wouldn't Harbaugh be sat out, suspended for the first 6 games or whatever the precedent is,
right,
of the first 6 month and a half of the season for the Chargers? I'm not pounding the drum saying that this needs to happen, but I am kind of curious. I thought it was silly then. I think it would be silly if they implemented it here, but why not, Kev? You did it with Jim Tressel and the Colts back in 2011. This is the same situation. Why would the guy that's still in the same position he was back then, Roger Goodell, why would he not do the same thing with Harbaugh here?
I'll trump you. No political.
That's weird.
No political. Hashtag no political. Remember when Terrell Pryor entered the supplemental draft, he was also suspended for getting tattoos and stuff while he was in college. I think it's the dumbest thing. I thought it was dumb with Coach Tressel. I thought it was dumb with Terrell Pryor. I think it would be dumb if the NFL suspended Jim Harbaugh for something that he got away with while in college. I'm not a fan of the NFL and their punishment of things that aren't even like real crimes and like crimes of the world. Like, it's not like somebody did a hit and run or, robbed a grocery store or anything like that. Hey man, you broke the rules in college. You know how many rules are broken every single day from college students or college athletes that just kind of fly under the radar? You mean to tell me like the guys that play at a certain university in Columbus or in Cincinnati aren't smoking weed, testing positive for weed? I guess that's not a thing anymore because issue 2. Shouts out to that.
You can get high as hell in Ohio.
But like, all the guys, okay, better yet, all the guys down there in Georgia who get speeding tickets left and right. Those dudes are getting drafted and playing immediately.
They're getting
paid. So like, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Like, that's old news to the NFL, man. I wouldn't be a fan of it if they actually did it. I would laugh though. I would laugh. I would think it would be funny, but I wouldn't be like a fan of it.
So Roger Goodell was asked during the stretch, guys, that he was asked if he believed that it was the NFL's responsibility to enforce NCAA rules. Roger Goodell would go on to say the NCAA has to establish their own rules and enforce their own rules. What we have is eligibility rules. What we have to do is make sure our eligibility rules are going to be upheld. Roger Goodell would go on to say, keep in mind, I did not realize this too. I forgot. Remember Terrell Pryor told you like that whole little window was kind of wiped out for me. I don't know why. He was suspended too.
Yeah.
I forgot about by the NFL.
Yes.
JJ McCarthy's punk ass better be he better be sitting out too. I'm just
He will
saying.
be sitting.
Yeah,
He'll be watching. That. He'll be watching.
He's tied for second on the depth chart, by the way. Out of the top 10 pick.
Shout out to Sam Darnold.
How have you not won the job from Sam Darnold with Addison and Justin Jefferson and Hackett and those guys? What a bum. Anyways, suspend him. No, Goodell would go on to say he didn't want players making the decision when they were allowed to enter the NFL. I don't want players coming in from college level that are either trying to avoid a suspension, declare themselves ineligible on their own, hire an agent, and decide I'm going to enter the NFL. Basically saying, hey, you know what? This is my last year in college. I'm going to break every rule possible because by the time I get caught, by the time they actually implement a punishment, I'm already heading to the league to get paid. Who cares? So I see that balance there. But again, how is that your responsibility?
Right.
It's not your responsibility. And I do believe if you're talking like a major crime, fine, but not Cheeseburger Gate.
Yeah.
I'm not defending Harbaugh, but I think it would be silly to suspend him the way it was silly to suspend Tressel. But at the same time, if you said you were going to do it. Now, here's why Tressel is a bigger and better freaking man than Jim Harbaugh. Here's why. It was because when this started getting out that there was rumblings that the NFL was looking into this, Tressel said, you know what? It was his suggestion. Israel wanted to appeal it. Jim Israel wanted to appeal it. He wanted to fight. He wanted to take it to court and believe he would have won. But Tressel did not, because he's a man and because he's a leader and because he actually, is a good person, unlike the sociopath that is Harbaugh, Jim Tressel, Kev, he went to ownership and said, no, I don't want this to be noisy. I don't want to be a distraction. That is like it. He's embarrassed enough about what happened there. He did not want to be. So this says it was Tressel's suggestion to Mr. Israel, who ultimately gave him the support, that they have decided to begin Coach Tressel's employment effective with our 7th regular game of the season game, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So ultimately didn't serve the suspension, but served time because they didn't start his start time of employment until whatever. So to sum up, do you think that ultimately anything comes of this?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. I just do see the hypocrisy. Why would you say that then?
Yeah, they set a precedent back then, but I think it's been so long ago, 14 years, however long it's been since then. Like, the game has changed, the way we consume the game has changed, or I'm not sure the right word for it, but like our acceptance of like things that go on at the college level has changed. Like, even like back then, like we still had this, hey man, it's a squeaky clean program type of vibe. Now we know basically every program is dirty a little bit, to levels of dirt that each program is doing. So I think the NFL is just like, man, that's their problem.
As it should be. So to sum up, Harbaugh should not be suspended. I think it's silly. He's left college.
Kenner loves Harbaugh.
He left it in a cowardly way that left them to clean up the mess. And he's laughing now. These things coming out today, a 4-year show cause, but like that would have been devastating to a Nick Saban or an Urban Meyer or people like that, like the guys who have the itch to get back at that level. Harbaugh, this isn't like Urban going to the NFL to test it out. It wasn't like Saban going to the NFL to test it out. Harbaugh, he's had success at both levels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ultimate success. He's won a champion, cheated, but he won a championship in college, has been to a Super Bowl in the NFL, and many believe that
been devastating to a guy like Matt Rule.
Yeah. Guys like, yeah. So for him, this is kind of a nothing, but that's why he's almost mocking it with that little press conference the other day, doing that WWE style promo, which I applaud. It reminded me when Pat McAfee did the Georgia Bulldog fight song, and then he turned and said, I'm going to pick Alabama. That was one of my favorite game day memories. And that was, I'm not going to lie, I kind of loved what Harbaugh did yesterday when he did the whole, look, a good man should apologize, and I'm not going to apologize because I didn't do anything wrong, basically leading into it. So it is what it is. Kenner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Do we have time to go? Well, we can't use a lot of time, but I'm going to let you deal with it like you dealt with it the other day. I'm stepping away.
Should we go to break first? Because you know how these calls can go sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Well, he's waited long enough. We'll make him wait a little more.
Yeah, let's go to break. We don't want Debbie to get mad at us.
But when you talk to him, I want you to ask him about, does he agree with me that Tressel's a better man than Harbaugh because he did the right thing?
I don't think that's up for debate. It's obviously that Coach Tressel is a better man.
Cool. Well, I'm going to sit back and listen, but we'll step away for a few minutes. Kev Nash, Shaw, I think we're going to bring Shaw on. Okay. You also, we got KB. You and KB are going to chop it up too. So we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash. Reds back at it tonight, game 3. They've split the series thus far. They're looking to go for the series win tonight and hopefully going for the sweep tomorrow against the Marlins. They got the Brewers coming up around the corner. Then they got the Cardinals at home starting next Monday night. The back-to-back wins over the Marlins in the series, they've moved up a game in the wild card standings. Now you could say, oh, that big whoop, that's not a lot. But it kind of is. There's a stretch where when the Reds, win a game, they don't move up at all. So to move up an entire game with beating take advantage of these bad team strike. That's the one thing about the Reds. They have not capitalized on running into, never say gimme games, but opportunity games.
Right.
I don't expect you to go sweep the Dodgers, but then they sweep the Dodgers. I don't expect you to go to New York and sweep the Yankees. Then you go to New York and sweep the Yankees. I do expect you to take 3-1 from a horrifically bad Marlins team. I do expect you to not lose 2-3 to the Giants. I do expect you to, you know what I mean? So I expect games 1 and 2. I expected that. I expect a win tonight. I expect a series win, not a split. You want me to buy into you being a playoff team? Go get business done. All right, we welcome you back. Harbaugh, 4-year show clause penalty for Cheeseburger Gate. Now you could water it down and say it's because of cheeseburgers, but ultimately it was the lying and not really cooperating with the investigation that probably did bring the hammer down a little bit harsher than maybe some others. But back in 2011. Tattoo Gate led to Jim Tressel being suspended and, or fired ultimately, with the big penalties for Ohio State. Tressel goes to the Colts in 2011 and ultimately tries to be their replay coordinator. And, you had Roger Goodell come out and say, hey, he might be suspended. He's going to suspend him if the Colts wouldn't have done it. And they did, or whatever, how they, Tressel said he didn't want to be a distraction. They ultimately get it done, and he doesn't start his first date of employment until 6 weeks into the season. It all worked out. Terrell Pryor was suspended in the NFL, which is a wild precedent. I forgot about that until this. So, people are asking what will happen with Harbaugh in the NFL. We don't think anything, but it is something to keep an eye on nonetheless. But I do know the next guy that, the last time he called, I'm putting the mic off to the side. This is Kev Nash's phone guest. Not really guest, just what I mean. He's calling in for the conversation. I'm going to turn my mic off and push it off to the side. We got who do we have?
David Shaw.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Oh, it's a great phone call when the other guy doesn't have to talk. It's a great phone call.
What you want to talk about, man?
Well, you know what I called in for. You guys started the show off with it, so you know what I called in for. Bat signal was sent, so I called in. NCAA doing this is kind of like you deleting your girlfriend's phone number after she dumped you.
I like that one.
I'll
show her.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really know what this is supposed to mean, quite honestly. And frankly, if you rewind back to conversations after 2020,
accountability.
I thought you weren't talking. Anyhow, if you remember our conversations after the 2020 season, or lack thereof, or whatever you want to call that joke of a season, I was the guy on here calling for his head.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 3 years withstanding, and whatever happened is whatever happened, and I'm not going to change your opinion. You're not going to change my opinion. It just is what it is, and we can agree to move on at this point. I'm just glad he's gone, quite honestly. And we can.
Why are you glad he's gone?
Because everything I've said all along is an entire tenure for 7 years. I don't really, deep down, I really don't think he cares about the university. If you really want my honest opinion.
Why you say that?
Because everything's been about him. It's always been about him. It's been about him since day one that he showed up in the press conference.
Well, to be fair, you're right. It's always been about him. I mean, I was watching something on the Big Ten Network, and he was talking about like his basically recruitment to University of Michigan. Like he's always been that, hey, me type of guy, and that's what got him to be a Michigan quarterback. That's what got him into the NFL. Playing for the Bears and playing for the Colts and stuff like that. So like that personality is what got him to where he got in life, and then ultimately that's helped him get to a job with the 49ers and then his program Michigan. So like when people are like that and they succeed, they're not going to change. They're just going to lean into it.
No, 100%. And I don't blame him for that. And he is who he is. And like, I don't agree with everything how the media portrays him. And I don't agree with everything that Kenner wants to talk to him. I mean, that other guy wants to talk to him about, but he is a weirdo. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't defend it.
That's a political word nowadays, you know.
Oh, it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, from hanging in the trees, talking to recruits, to taking your shirt off, throwing the football around, the meme that everybody's seen, to everything. I mean, it's the side
lying to the NCAA.
Again, you're talking and you said you weren't going to. But anyhow, either get on the conversation or stay off of it. One or the other.
Let me ask you this, Dan. What should the NFL do? Absolutely
nothing. What's the NFL going to do? That's the interesting question.
They're not going to do nothing, man.
I agree. If you had to make me make a bet right now, I don't know if I could make the bet, because I'm at least 50-50 that Goodell does do something to him. Why? Because it's Harbaugh.
But he hasn't done anything to tick the NFL off, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, if he did tick anybody off in the NFL, that was when he was at the 49ers, and 49ers have moved on.
You think that just got forgotten? Hey,
so it's not because he's being held accountable. It's just because they're out together.
Swatting Jim Schwartz's hand away and acting like a fool in almost every post handshake. You think the NFL has just forgotten about this? No, I don't. And you can throw in the holding him accountable BS. It's the same as holding Tressel accountable.
Why is that BS?
It was dumb. It's dumb when they did it to him, and it would be BS if they did it to Harbaugh.
But every time he's held accountable for anything, you say that.
Stop. No, I don't.
You do. When's the last time he was punished and you said, yeah, he deserved that?
Last year.
Last year when?
At this time, when he was suspended for the first 3 games of the year.
But they weren't out to get him then?
They haven't, they've been out to get him ever since he came out against the NCAA.
It's not because he broke rules.
He's one of the main reasons why we're about to have an organization called the NCAA and it be defunct.
But if he didn't break rules, they couldn't go after him for anything.
These are 2 different subjects, man. Breaking rules and him coming out against the NCAA and the NCAA holding a grudge against him, those are 2 different subjects.
I agree with you, but at the same time, when he does...
So which subject are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about both, but at the same time, I agree with you. Okay, yes, he wanted to do that. That rubs the NCAA the wrong way, but it's not like they're making up phantom things that he's doing wrong. He broke the rules and they're holding him accountable.
Answer me this question.
Okay.
Is he suspended this way, the exact same punishment, if he's still coaching for Michigan right now?
Why wouldn't he be?
That shows you everything you need to know.
Why wouldn't he be?
There's no way.
How do you know that?
Because they would appeal it. That's why.
Okay.
The only time the NCAA comes down with a punishment like this is when the coach isn't there anymore.
Because they can't be there anymore.
Name one suspension like this with an active coach. Name one suspension like this.
So what is the punishment if he's still there?
Probably 1 or 2 more games.
Now that doesn't sound like a punishment for somebody that they're after.
You can twist it however you want.
I'm not twisting. I ain't Gumby.
Yeah, you twist it all the time.
I'm not twisting anything.
So he comes out 24 hours ago and makes his buffoonery comment, his WWE comment, as you called it, and then 24 hours later, this is what they give him. And you don't find it to be a coincidence? Come on, Justin, you're smarter than that.
I'm very, very smart, but I also don't think they just made up that punishment out of nowhere. So I don't think they woke up this morning and said, that's it for your show, guys. That's it. Get him out of here.
I think it was something similar. I think the years and some of the stuff was a part of it. They're like, you know what? Let's stick it to him even harder. Let's give him a couple more years on top of it.
So will the punishment for when they cheated to win a national championship be worse than the lying about cheeseburgers, or will it be the same just because Sharon Moore's, or it will be less because Sharon Moore is actively in coaching?
It's going to be way less.
Way less. for cheating
Because-
to win the national championship.
because-
It'll be way less.
This is the NCAA.
You guys can call it. This is not even going to get settled until maybe next year at this time.
Okay, next year at
2025.
this time, when it gets settled for them cheating, will it be less? You said yes
Yes, it'll be less.
for cheating.
I've said-
Thank you. All right. Kidder and Kev show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Shaw, next time you call, I won't hang up on you, but we're out of time. But you heard him admit they cheated, right? You hear it?
Yes.
Or did I twist it?
I mean, we have it on tape.
Bop it.
Twist it.
Oh! All right. We'll be right back. Kidder and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. Kev Nash, College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers. What do you guys talk about? What are you guys going to talk about?
Oh, man, we talk about, obviously, the Brandon Ayuk rumors. We talk about Jim Harbaugh. We even talk about a show called A Different World. This is before your time. A Different World was a show that came on NBC, starred Kadeem Hardison, Jasmine Guy, and, their characters got married. So this is going to be like a revival of the show, potentially focusing on their daughter. So I asked KB about his thoughts about that. They went to Hillman College, HBCU, everything like that. So, ask KB about that. A little pop culture conversation, a little bit talk about everything.
Kidder and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio.